Hey everybody, it's Anna J. Wellner with Indie Author Chat, and I have today with me Cami Murdock Jensen, who is the author of the Mage series. Cami, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Cami Murdock Jensen. I live in Utah, and I've written this series that I'm very, very proud of. It started a little. I started a little later, although I did do several plays when I was younger that are published, and they're performed all over the United States and part of Europe, and that makes me very proud. My day job is I teach children's theater for my local city here in Spanish Fork, Utah. We do 3 shows a year, and every once in a while, I started coming up with these wonderful ideas that were just too big to fit on the stage. And so when I started to have time, I started jotting them down. And now I have the Mage series based on one of my daughters who has struggled with chronic illness and a little bit of emotional illness, just to kind of help her have something to focus on other than feeling terrible all the time.
Wow, that is wonderful. That is a great thing to do. It certainly does help us to escape into a world of books where everything seems possible and magical, and that little bit of that's what books are supposed to do, is give you a place to go for a little while and just enjoy yourself and kind of escape. So, but would you consider this a middle grade series or a young adult series?
That's a very good question. So I wrote it intending it to be for young adults. The vocabulary in it is a little more advanced, but I've noticed a lot of parents giving my books to middle grade children as well, because they are very clean, they're very exciting, very engaging, but they might have to ask some questions about what words mean, but we all know that that's not a bad thing. It really helps children build a very intelligent, vast vocabulary, and that is not a bad thing at all. But I've also noticed quite a few adults getting sucked in. I've had one reader email me and say that my book should have a warning that the last 40% must be read all at the same time.
Wow, that's a great compliment. Yeah, there are middle grade books that are very exciting that I've enjoyed. I know, and I love to read young adult fantasy and fiction. So I think that adults can definitely get into any good book. So it doesn't have to be an adult book or labeled literary fiction or whatnot. We can all escape into any world that we want to.
Isn't it about the story? It's about the story. It's not about the labels. If you have a very good, solid story, anyone can enjoy it. Just look at the Pixar movies.
Oh gosh, yes. Up still makes me just leave me alone with a box of tissues for an hour after watching that movie. But I love that self-acceptance seems to be a theme that runs through all of your books, and empowerment as well. And I always say that I love to see a strong and confident female lead. Where did you draw inspiration for Agnes, the central character to the story?
Well, yes. So I did mention my daughter, Rachel. She has a syndrome called POTS, which stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's related to a genetic defect that my whole family has, and we all suffer in different ways. But for Rachel, every time she stood up, her blood pressure would suddenly drop really low. She would lose energy. She would turn white as a ghost, and her legs would collapse. And she would just.
Tachycardia is a cardiac arrhythmia that is that can be dangerous.
In her case, her heart, what happens is her blood vessels don't constrict. So when her heart pumps, the blood pools in her legs. And so her heart had to pump faster in order to push the blood back up out of her legs. And so that's how POTS works. But we did not get that diagnosed for years and years. She was 11 when she started having symptoms, and we didn't get her diagnosed until she was close to 18 years old.
Oh,
So for all of those years, doctor after doctor trying to figure out what was causing her to just fall in the hallways, what was causing her to just, all the energy just slipped out of her. And it was very, very challenging. And so oh yeah, it was terrible. But in an effort to try and get her motivated to get out of bed anyway, we started writing these stories. And I would take her for walks because I figured if I could strengthen her heart and her circulatory system, it would help. And so while we went on walks, we would talk about the plot and Agnes and her motivations and what she was suffering and how to rise above the suffering. And excuse me, my daughter really took that to heart. And I remember one time, it was kind of a changing moment for her. She collapsed in the kitchen and was laying on the hard tile floor. And I said, honey, why don't you at least crawl to your bedroom so you can collapse somewhere more comfortable? And she said that she was like, I don't have to lay here on the floor. I can move. Even if I crawl, I can move. And so for her, that was a little bit of a turning point to where she didn't have to accept what was happening to her. She didn't have to be a victim. There were ways that she could fight back, even if it was crawling. Yeah. And so I started putting those types of instances, those types of situations into my book where Agnes is the main character of my book, where she would be just confronted with too much, but she would find a way to deal with it. If it wasn't, punching Wonder Woman style through walls, she would find a way around it. You can still succeed even though you've got terrible things stacked against you.
I think that's a fantastic message and a very moving story. If you can't tell, sorry. But
say without crying too. So.
But that is amazing, and I think that's true of a lot of people that that find themselves in a position where they feel either emotionally, mentally, or physically stuck. That there is another option. There's another way. There's always a different. If you can just find that strength to crawl to the bed,
yes,
and then that's a way around, a way out. Gosh, that really did get me. You got me there.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's fantastic. That's extremely inspiring. And like I said, empowerment and self-acceptance and overcoming are seen throughout the entire installment of the series. And you have the third book that's out now called Third Earth. And then, but this is, you have it's a planned 5-book series. So will we be seeing a 4th book anytime soon?
My goal is to have 4th book published around the July-August timeframe of this year. And I hope to have 5th Earth done by early next year. Oh. So maybe even quicker. I do not, this is something that's just me, but I hate cliffhangers. Just don't like them at all.
I don't think you're alone in that.
Know how the story ends. So 4th Earth, is a cliffhanger. And so I want to release Fifth Earth really, really quickly so that people don't have to suffer for too long.
That's awesome. Yeah. So in contemporary fantasy, which is what the series is, we see Agnes having to interact with the normal humans of Earth, and as an author, it's so tough to bring a fantasy world and the real world together in the story. Do you plot out the story as it goes, or do you sit down and plot out the story before you write, or do you brainstorm with your daughter and just start writing? Do you know where you're going instinctually?
I do plot out series arcs. So
Okay.
you've got to be able to relate the end of the series to the beginning of the series. So I
Right.
put little seeds of foreshadowing in for the first book so that the end book does make sense. But I am definitely by nature what they call a pantser. I
A
fly by
pants.
the seat of my pants. And I just I'll write and the character will do something that I completely didn't intend, but it was natural. It's just what needed to happen. And sometimes it works out for the best, not always, but my beta readers and my sounding board and my children, of course, because they're all so brilliant when it comes to creativity, they'll let me know whether it works or not. So, and if it doesn't, then I go back and change it. But I just love that impulsive, ooh, what if this happened, and just write it and then see how it affects the book. But yes, the series arc, known from the beginning what's going to happen in the end.
So you already know the ending. We just have to wait.
Sorry, no spoilers from me.
I completely understand and respect that. But it's just awesome that you have beta readers in-house. I mean, you've got the perfect group to help you with ideas and to tell you what works and what doesn't. And
Not that you have a choice, but yes.
do they go to school? Do they go to school and say, "Hey, mom wrote the Mage series"? Do they brag about it?
I've gone to my children's school and done demonstrations on creative writing and how to write a good magic system and how to write a good lead character. Yes, I've done that. And sometimes people appreciate it and sometimes they don't, but it's still fun. I'm not famous enough yet that anybody can say, ooh, my mom's Cami Murdock Jensen, but someday maybe.
We all hope, as authors who have children, we are all famous in our kids' eyes as world renowned authors. It just that's the reality of it. I think so. They're our biggest fans, and that's all that counts.
True. So true.
So tell us a little bit about the series and the awards that it has won, because it's a multiple, the first book is a winner of multiple awards.
It is. I got to be honest, I was very surprised to win. I know that I'm a good storyteller. I know I have a great imagination, but to win awards, that was really neat. So some of the awards that I've won, I have to look at my cheat sheet here. The Feathered Quill Award, I entered in 3 different categories and I was a finalist in each one. So that was really, really great. I was also a Reader's Favorite International Book Award in just the general genre of young adult fantasy, which is a huge genre.
Yes.
I won a medal for that. So that was also quite nice. But I think my favorite award that I won was the Wishing Shelf Book Award. And this is a contest based in the United Kingdom, in the UK. but it's judged by teenagers.
Oh, so you're
So
target demographic. So,
yes,
so
it,
it was kind of like the Teen Choice Awards of books.
oh yes, that's exactly what it was in the UK. Yes, so they give the kids the books, and then they give them you know, action 1 through 10, dialogue 1 through 10. They give them little categories and have the readers rate them themselves. And I was a finalist in that one too, and that meant a lot to me that my target audience loved my books.
That's so awesome. That is fantastic. So, do you what I want to know for those of you who are thinking about picking up the series, which absolutely do. What would you what do you hope that readers, especially young women of today, take away after reading the series? Well, readers in general.
That's that's a great question, because when I planned the series, I planned for each book to be a major life lesson that Agnes learns. And so for book 1, my main character Agnes she's a burn victim. I made her a burn victim because at that time I didn't have a diagnosis for my daughter, and so I wanted something general that most people could relate to. So Agnes survived an explosion as a baby. She's got scarring on the right side of her cheek and neck, but she also has neuropathy. Sorry, that did not come out. Neuropathy in her legs because the explosion killed her father. When he fell, it damaged her spine, and so she always has weakness and pain in her legs, and that's what my daughter Rachel could relate to. And so for that first book, she just so much self-loathing. In fact, she wouldn't even look in mirrors because she couldn't stand to see her own face. And her scars never faded. They were just as red and as raging as the day she got them, and the doctors couldn't figure out why. But as she accepted herself throughout the book and became appreciative of the sacrifice that her father made on her behalf, those scars, they didn't go away, but they started to fade into the silvery, papery scars that are normal, healthy scars. And so just that acceptance of herself, that centering of loving all the parts of herself is the theme of the first book. And each of the books has one of those amazing things that mothers wish that they could tell their kids. So to help them grow.
Absolutely. No, that is an amazing message, and to bring out maybe kind of a physical manifestation on the face of what some of us feel inside, whether it's sadness or anxiety or not quite fitting in or having a difficult time, emotionally, then to kind of show that as a physical representation on the outside. There are a lot of deep themes to the book that aren't really you may not see them quite as deeply, as a young adult reader or a middle grade reader, but the message is still there.
Yes, they learn the message even though they may not say, oh, this is the main theme of the book, right?
Right.
Yes.
And this or notice the symbolism, but be able to pick up on the underlying message of self-acceptance and the benefits that come from self-healing.
Yes, and that self-acceptance, that self-healing, it doesn't matter what your emotional, mental, or physical manifestation is. Every one of us will be better off and much happier if we can just love who we are.
I could not agree more. It's something that I've always had a bit of a struggle with growing up, because I dealt with anxiety as a child, and it was difficult for me to interact with other children, and was seen as kind of a target for the bullies of the the school, and so it was a slow process for me in my high school and college years, and as a young adult, to gain some of that self-confidence back, which I had lost. It's so important that you gain that self-confidence whenever you're young, and to have it consistently torn down, it was quite the process to build it back up. So,
And
that's
that happens, doesn't it? We all come across pitfalls and blockades and things that are so difficult. And just when you think you've gotten into a really good position, you get slapped back down again, but you still keep climbing. Never stop trying is the main theme of book 3 of My Third Earth. And that it's okay for you to make mistakes. When you try to take charge of your own situation, you can still come out on top.
I love that. Perseverance will triumph all, and I think that as a kid, I was probably not the easiest kid to get along with because of my stubbornness. But as an adult, I now can kind of realize it as a benefit, that if something doesn't work, then I don't give up easily. So I'm kind of a little grateful for my stubbornness now, because if I had given up a long time ago, I would not be where I am today. And I think as authors, we sometimes doubt ourselves and want to give up, especially whenever you're in that journey as an independent author or a self-published author. But we don't. And then if you hadn't sat down and put that first book down on paper, then
I did.
I'm sorry.
I'm so glad I did.
Exactly. I mean, just and now you're on the third book, and the fourth is about to come out, and then pretty soon the fifth. So, do you have another idea that has been whispering to you that needs to be told, needs to be written down, or do you think you do? Okay.
I do have another idea. Before I came out with the Mage series, I was playing around with the idea of a supernatural force that uses false emotions to lure in its prey. And I did play around with that, but I was not a very good writer at that point. So I shelved it and brought out the Mage series to help my daughter. But when I'm done with the Mage series, I'm going to go back to the lure.
And revisit that one.
Yes.
And that sounds a little deeper, maybe a little more advanced. Would that be young adult fantasy or supernatural fantasy, more for new adult or adult?
It wouldn't be new adult or adult. It would still be young adult. I mean,
but deal with some darker sort of themes there.
It's also about self-mastery. It's about understanding what you feel and being able to rise above that, which I also think is something that young adults and teenagers of all walks of life really struggle with, especially with the instant gratification of phones and things like that. But that's self-mastery, a huge part of becoming a happy individual.
A happy adult.
Yes.
And sometimes we have to go back. If we don't have that, then we have to go back and kind of do some of that hard work that we should have done.
Life has a way of making us learn whether we want to or not.
This is very true. So, as an independent, as a successful, multi-award-winning independent author, do you have any advice for other independent authors who might be considering publishing their first book, or are in the midst of getting out there on their publishing journey? Anything that you've learned that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So humility is a big part of it. Being willing to take advice graciously is a huge part of it. The first time I got a book edited ever, I cried for like 3 hours. I was like, they don't understand my work. It was pathetic. It was sad. I'm embarrassed, but it happened. And my husband just said, you know, it's okay. That's what she thought. You don't have to think the same way, but go back and look at it again and see if she had a point. And bless his heart if he was not absolutely right. And so the next thing I did was start reading books on good writing, attending conferences on how to be a successful author, and taking every single little thing I learned and applying it to my craft. But at the same time, don't lose your own individual voice. It's a balance.
I've heard that has been a resonating theme on the channel that we all seem to agree with, that guys, you can choose to take the advice of beta readers and critiquers, and if it's a contextual or grammatical issue or punctuation, that's one thing, but don't ever let anyone change the intention of your book, the message that it has, or the voice with which you tell it.
Yes, brilliant.
Thank you. But yes, there are so many wonderful books out there that I think people don't have faith in their own voice, or think that this has already been done before. And the thing is that everyone has an individual viewpoint and an individual voice. You can give someone your characters and your storyline, and they will write a book that is completely different from anything that you would have written, because it is your own unique voice. So
perfect. I love it.
Stay true to it.
Yes, that's a good lesson for teenagers as well.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Staying true to the things that you believe in, because with so much social pressure that's out there now, it's difficult to maintain kind of your moral center. And so I like that your books explore staying true to who you are. So
that was my favorite part about that. It's I'm a mom, and like many moms out there, you just want all of the kids to be happy. So I'm really lucky that I have a platform that I can touch as many kids as possible in a positive way. I hope it's a positive way.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely we'll get the word out there, guys, about the Arc Mage series. Check it out. I will have the links for all of Cami's books in the description below, as well as your website, and make sure to check those out on Amazon. And are they on Amazon specifically, or Barnes and Noble, and just everywhere?
Amazon specifically. The paperback is on Barnes and Noble, but Amazon has the hardback, the paperback, and the e-copy.
Okay, awesome. Great information. So all of that will be in the description below. And Cami, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today about the Arc Mage series and your message of self-acceptance and positivity that I think so many young adults and kids need to hear, especially young girls these days.
Thank you, Anna. It was a blast.
It was a pleasure to meet you guys. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on new and upcoming content. And stay safe and stay healthy, guys. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.